Okay, this is the first page that you see when you pull it up, and this can be found online, guys, from the SEC. They have a website, and they have all the forms that are filed from a company. They're required to publish them. Also, and this is not a sponsorship, I'm not being sponsored by Moo, but actually their app is very helpful in the fact that you can go on it, and as soon as the filings go in, pretty much almost instantaneously from what I found, they have them on their site, and there's a part for that on Moo that you can pull it down. You know, you just go into the news and then the announcements, and right in the announcements, it'll tell you if there's a filing that day. So that's how I found this filing. And what it says here on the first page is that basically Vinco Ventures is the person filing. And in general, guys, this first page is pretty boring. It's like the cover page to a fax letter almost. The date of the report was June 10th, 2022. I guess that was originally when they filed, but it didn't come out to us until June 16th. The next just gives, you know, the registration information. So the state Nevada commission, the IRS number, this is Vinco's info, their address and zip code, phone number, kind of boring. Then you'll notice that check the appropriate box below if the Form 8K filing is intended to simultaneously satisfy the filing obligations of the registrant under any of the following provisions. You can see that none of these boxes are checked, so don't even worry about reading them, doesn't matter. And then just the common stock, this is nothing that's changing the value, so BBIG, and it's listed under the NASDAQ. And then indicate by check mark whether this registration is an emerging growth company as defined in Rule 405 of the SEC Act of 1933 or Rule 12B-2 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. And it is checked because BBIG is an emerging growth company. If an emerging growth company, indicate by check mark that the registrant has elected to use the extended transition period for complying with any new or revised financial accounting standards provision pursuant to Section 13A of the Exchange Act. And this is also checked because, again, they're an emerging growth company and they're not using any extended transition period. So nothing really important on this page, guys. And let's bring up the next one. Okay, guys, this is what I like to refer to as the body. This is where we're going to gather the most information when we're pulling up a filing. So item 5.02, departure of directors or certain officers, election of directors, appointment of certain officers, compensatory arrangement of certain officers. So this item 5.02, this is just their code for how it gets filed with the SEC. So resignation of a director. On June 10, 2022, Philip A. McFillin was named Vice President and General Counsel of Cryptide, Inc., a subsidiary of Vinco Ventures, Inc., the company. Following which, Mr. McFillin resigned as a member of the company's board of directors, the board. Mr. McFillin did not serve on any board committees at the time of his resignation and did not resign as a result of any disagreement with the company on any matter relating to the company's operations, policies, or practices. Okay, guys, this is very easy to understand. And if you don't understand what I just read or you're reading it and you don't understand, can I suggest that the way that helps me, because even now I'll sometimes go to a filing and not understand it, is actually to take notes, because for some reason, as you're writing it, it tends to process, at least with me, and I know that, you know, a lot of you probably would feel the same, but it's probably with what your way of, you know, interpreting knowledge is. Some people do better reading, some people do better writing, but I find that through reading and then taking notes on it when I'm not fully understanding it, it actually helps it to sink in and for me to get a better understanding. But it's very basic. So basically, Philip McFillin, who was on the board of BBIG, was named to be the vice president and general counsel of Cryptide, which we know that Cryptide is spinning off and becoming a separate company and it's, you know, it's still associated with BBIG, but it's going to be its own stock, its own, you know, company. It's going to be traded separately than the general BBIG. So because of that, Mr. McFillin needs to resign from BBIG's board because he's no longer considered employed by BBIG. He's being employed by Cryptide as their vice president and general counsel. So there's nothing here that's bullish, bearish, nothing. It's just a result of this. So we all knew that Mr. McFillin was going to be leaving the board because he had to resign to accept this Cryptide position. This was an announcement previously, guys. This is not really new information, but what we hadn't heard before is that the second part, the appointment of a new director. So on June 10th, 2022, the board appointed Mr. John Robert Colucci to serve as a member of the board in each of the audit committee, the compensation committee, and nominating and corporate governance committee. So in place of Mr. McFillin, they've now appointed a new director, Mr. John Robert Colucci, and he's going to be serving under these committees. So as you can see here, Mr. McFillin wasn't on any committee, so this Mr. Colucci, it's now going to be very much so involved in the company and the committees that the board members serve on. So he's on several, as you can see here, which is great because they need more voices, so that's great for us. John Colucci, this gives you a little bit of information. Mr. Colucci, age 42, has over 21 years of experience in senior management, business development, advertising, marketing, and strategy development. Mr. Colucci is currently the president of American Marketing and Mailing Services, Inc., a full-service advertising agency supplying clients and custom marketing campaigns designed to meet their business goals. Mr. Colucci was previously the vice president at C Solutions Marketing, Inc. for 11 years and vice president of business development and strategy at BigRoast.com for 11 years. Okay, that's a little background information on who Mr. Colucci is. Related party transactions. There was no arrangement or underlying between Mr. Colucci and any other person pursuant to which Mr. Colucci was selected as a director. There are no family relationships between Mr. Colucci and any director, executive officer, or person nominated or chosen by the company to become a director, executive officer of the company without the meaning of item 401D of Regulation S-K under the U.S. Securities Act of 1933, Regulation S-K. Since the beginning of the company's last fiscal year, the company has not engaged in any transactions in which Mr. Colucci had a direct or indirect material interest within the meaning of item 404A of Regulation S-K. So basically, this is just saying that there's no other information they need to disclose on Colucci in regards to, like, if he was, let's say, Lisa King's brother. He's not Lisa King's brother, or else they would have to disclose that here. So basically, this is just explaining that there's no potential conflict of interest or anything like that. Otherwise, they would have to disclose that to us. So check, that's a good thing. And then, pursuant to the requirements of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, the registrant has duly caused this report to be signed on its behalf by the undersigned thereon to duly authorized, dated June 16, 2022, Vinco Ventures, Lisa King, CEO. So guys, that's just a signature because Lisa has to sign any filing that goes to the SEC. So that's pretty basic. So now let's get into my take. Okay, this part is going to be my personal opinion, so please, again, I'm going to remind you, do not take this as financial advice. But when BBIG said that they had to delay Cryptide, a lot of us were very disappointed, obviously. I mean, personally, I know it was very upsetting considering that we had been not delayed for the first time, but now this felt like October being repeated all over again, guys. But I think there was a lot more to the story than we're aware of, and I think I may have even tweeted this out. I have to go back in my tweets and look, or if you guys want to, feel free. But I had a suspicion that the reason we were delayed could have potentially been because we didn't have a board member. And as you can see by that filing, they basically exchange one board member for another, but based on the fact that the outgoing board member was associated with Cryptide, I'm wondering if there was some sort of regulation in place and that's why the SEC delayed it, because he wouldn't have been on BBIG's board at that time. They were missing a board member. So now that we have Mr. Colucci, I feel that we've met that obligation. And we're going to find out this week, but my expectation is that this came out Thursday night. I felt like it was like, okay, facts on the table. You would, if I were the CEO of a major corporation, you would never announce big bullish moves on a Friday, going into a 3-day weekend especially, because it's not fresh in investors' minds. So my expectation is that I believe on Tuesday or even Wednesday, depending on, you know, how they feel about when they want to announce it and what their own personal strategy is. But I expect that we get Tide news dropped either Tuesday or Wednesday morning. That's my personal opinion. I would be more bullish to say that I think Tuesday, I would expect to see it. But guys, again, this is based on just following this company for as long as I have, seeing how they drop news, and knowing that they told us by the end of Q2. But we have a lot of bullish things coming up that this would fit perfectly into a strategy for their company to set us on a major run. Now, again, I'm bullish. This is my interpretation. If I thought something else, then I'm also very honest, as you guys are well aware, I'm sure by now. So I would tell you that too. So my expectation is we get Tide news this week, guys. Hope I'm right. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'm going to be doing another video, probably drop tomorrow, based on my thoughts for the week and all the bullish catalysts coming up for BBIG, because there's more coming. All right, guys, have a great day and happy Father's Day.